Thanks, Junaid. Junaid, I hope you're able to see the PPT screen, correct?
Yes, yes, of course.
Perfect. So, guys, good morning, all of you. Thank you so much for your time today for today's session. And my name is Shoaib. I am a pre-sales consultant in Redington Gulf, and I handle all the region. Most of you might know me. I handle partner customers in their Azure requirement. So today, in today's session, we're gonna deep dive into Azure webinar, which is Azure Migrate. So there are multiple scenarios of Azure Migrate. We might not go into all of them, but yes, one or two we will absolutely kind of cover. So let's quickly get started. So before going into the session, let me quickly give you an overview of Azure Migrate, what it does. So basically, now customer, there are two type of customer. One is a customer who want to start an Azure deployment from scratch. For them, we just go ahead and create a solution architecture, and we create a security assessment, and we do an infrastructure assessment, and then we provision the virtual machine and all the services on Azure. But there are very few of them. Basically, there are startup customers who do that. But most of the customers who have on-premises environment, they have been using on-premises environment for decades. Now they want to use Azure, and they are not sure that how they should go for Azure. How I can migrate? I maybe have a SQL database server. I have a VDI environment. I have my application. I have my virtual machines. I want to take it on Azure, but I need to make sure that none of my there is zero or minimum data loss, and there is very minimum downtime as well. So there was a service. There is still a service called as ASR, Azure Site Recovery. This is an old service which mainly used to use for doing a DR, a disaster recovery on Azure, and for migration as well. So when customer wants to do a DR on Azure, we still use Azure Site Recovery as a DR service, but we used to use it for migration as well. Then Microsoft created a new service for Azure migration. It's absolutely different from ASR, called as Azure Migrate. So with the help of Azure Migrate, we will be able to do multiple things, which we will deep down into. So basically, Azure Migrate is for migrating all of your infrastructure which is on premises. It can be data centers, servers, infrastructure, your applications, and all those things you will be able to migrate to a public cloud such as Azure, Microsoft Azure. It is one of the great service that I've seen in Azure in terms of accuracy, in terms of security, in terms of assessment, that we will quickly dive into. So what are the tools available in Azure Migrate? There are tools available. There are range of tools available in Azure Migrate. So basically, with the help of when you start an Azure assessment plan, which we will do it in a while, you can use a native tool from Azure, which is Azure Migrate, or you can use third-party tools as well. In the same portal, you'll give you an action that do you want to use Azure Migrate, or do you want to use third-party tool like we have Zerto for DR. Then we have Cloudamize, and there are many third-party tools which you'll see an option there itself, and you'll see the pricing and other details as well. So what can we migrate with Azure Migrate? What are the things we can do in Azure Migrate? So first of all, when you run an Azure Migrate, it will do a discovery. What it will do is basically, if for example, if we are migrating a Hyper-V environment on Azure, so once we set up an Azure Migrate plan, an OVA machine, an OVA file will be downloaded on your Hyper-V environment, and a machine will be created with the help of that, which will be your assessment server. That server will be on the same host and will be connected to all of your virtual machine. With the help of that server, we will run a tool for assessment and migration. Once we start the assessment, it can do assessment for servers, it can do assessment for database. So for database, we use a different tool called as DMA, which is database migration assistance, which we have a demo for that. We will do it. It will do an assessment for your web application. It will do assessment for your virtual desktop environment as well. Now, everyone, most of them would be aware that Microsoft has a Windows virtual desktop, and one of the greatest virtualization environment of all time, which is available and live on Azure. So, and we have a session on Windows virtual desktop as well. You might have received invite for that as well. So on 22nd. So we do an assessment for Windows Virtual Desktop, I mean your VDI environment, to get it on Azure. And of course, we do an assessment for data migration as well. So there is one service called as Azure Data Box. Unfortunately, it's not available in UAE for now, but it is in the timeline. If I'm not wrong, it's Q1 2021. So what Databox does is, imagine customer have hundreds of TBs of data, which they want to get it on Azure. It becomes almost very difficult or impossible to get it over the internet connectivity. So what the Databox does is, you will upload that data in a data box. The data box will be provided by Microsoft. It is highly secure. Then it will with an encryption key and other thing. You will upload your data in a data box. Microsoft will take it to the Azure data center. Microsoft will upload it on your Azure subscription, and they will destroy the data. And of course, there is some charge for it. So it will do an assessment for the migration for large amount of data with the help of data box as well. So what are the examples of server assessment in Azure migration? So what all it does, imagine I want to do a migration for server, maybe on VMware, on Hyper-V. So first of all, it will do a readiness check. It will run an assessment that which all servers are ready to move to Azure, and it will give us a readiness report. What if the servers are ready? Then it will give a report. If the servers are not ready, then it will tell us that why the servers are not ready and what all precautions we need to do. Maybe in some of the servers, the .NET framework is not installed. Some of the servers would be very, very old operating system that we cannot take it to Azure. Some of the servers might have that some dependencies which we cannot move. So first, it will do a readiness check of your on-premises environment. Once the readiness check is done, something which is very difficult for the customer to understand, that what size of virtual machine I might need in Azure. For example, sorry guys, imagine if I'm using a 8 core 64 GB RAM hyper threaded with NVIDIA Tesla machine on premises. But if I want to go on Azure, if I want to take it to Azure, what type of virtual machine I might need to go to Azure? I mean, because this machine that I've chosen on premises, it's like 5 years old. Azure has virtual machine with most of the updated technology. The machines are fast. The machines that I'm using on premises maybe not very much optimized, not very much used. I might be using a 8 core 64 GB RAM, but not even 10% is being used. So, what type of virtual machine? Should I take the same amount of virtual machine in terms of compute power, or should I go for less? So, Azure Migrate will do an Azure sizing after doing an assessment for maybe 3 days, 5 days, a week, 1 month, depending upon what level of assessment you want to do, and it will give an estimate size that based on your assessment, these are the recommendation virtual machines on Azure, with the help of which you'll be able to go to most appropriate machine on Azure, and you will be able to save the cost on Azure. So once the sizing test is been done, it will do a cost estimation that based upon your readiness, your sizing check, this is going to be a estimate cost that you will pay to Azure every month or every year. Then a very, very important feature that Azure Migration does is a dependency check. Now, customers, they have 2 tier applications, 3 tier applications. Some of the customer might have multiple tier of applications. Now, how to move this dependency together? I mean, what are the dependency? Is there any step to move the dependency? So it will do a dependency, because imagine if we have SQL, and at the backend we have if we have application at the backend we have SQL, then we only move the application, and we kept the SQL on premises, and we cut down the connectivity, and we are gone. we are in a very, very bad shape. So in that way, it will do the dependency check for your application as well. So it doesn't matter if your application is running on VMware, on Hyper-V, on physical environment. So this is, so if you see, right from readiness check to dependency to assessment and migration, it does an end-to-end solutioning. And the most important part, which is very, very important to note here, it is a free tool from Microsoft. There is no charge for using Azure Migrate. So let's jump into, so unified migration platform. This is what we already cover. So see now, due to time limitation, we cannot do a demo for all. So I have taken a snapshot for a demo of Hyper-V to Azure, and we will do an actual demo for SQL, because a lot of customers, they came up to me that I want to move my SQL to Azure, and what is the step? So Hyper-V and VMware, it's going to remain the same. That's why I've taken the snapshot, and we will do an actual demo for SQL. So what are the prerequisites? There is no prerequisites as such. First of all, you need to have an Azure subscription. And the guys who are aware about Azure, there is a service called as Azure Migrate, which I'll show it to you once we go through this. You click on Azure Migrate, it will ask you which subscription, which resource group, what is the project name. So Microsoft Business Contours of project. What is the geographical location? They have taken states. Once I do this service, there are migration goals here. So I'll click on servers. Once I click on the server, it will ask me first to discover. Unless and until the machines are not discovered, it will not give you an option to access and migrate. So it will do a discover. Once we click on discover, a machine will be downloaded, an OVA file will be downloaded, which I'll show it to you. And you need to install it on your local Hyper-V or VMware environment, and you need to run the assessment. Once we run the assessment, it will give you an option that do you want to assess and migrate Windows Server, SQL database, and explore more scenarios where you'll get. So if you see the left hand side, we have servers, we have database, we have VDI, we have web application, and we have database as well. So once I click on assess and migrate on server, it ran the discovery. I installed the tool on my environment, and it ran the discovery. It discovered 909 machine. We have not created any group, we have not created any assessment, and there are 8 warnings. You need to click on the warning, that which of the warning is there only warning, is there error, what exactly it is doing. That will be done after assessment. Once we do that, now we did an assessment type of Azure virtual machine, discovery source, machine discover, assessment name, my assessment properties. You'll give certain properties. These are the properties. So what I said, my target, what is going to be my target location, storage type, static, automatic or HDD or SSD that you want to deserve. I want to do a 3-year reserve. This is basically for giving the prices. So you guys are aware about reservation, but still let me give you an overview. That in reservation, you can do a 1-year or a 3-year reservation. If reservation is basically you're giving an upfront commitment to Microsoft. Once we give an upfront commitment to Microsoft gives some percent discount. Just give me one quick minute. Sorry about that. Okay, so I will do a session that it is going to be a 1-year or 3-year reservation. Then VM size, I'll say choose it on a performance based size, and performance history 1 day. See here, where you choose a performance history, you'll tell that do it for 1 day or 3 days or 5 days or even 30 days, 1 month you can do. Percentage utilization 95%, VM series 12, comfort factor 2 into X, then pricing pay as you go. And if you have a license on premises with software assurance, make it as a hybrid benefit. If you'll click on yes, once you do the assessment, you will get this report that ready to move on Azure to ready with conditions, not ready to Azure. Storage, we have taken standard HDD, and what is going to be a monthly cost. Based on the assessment that we do, they have taken around 8 machines to be migrated to Azure. And based on that, it's saying that this is going to be your compute cost $193.75, and storage cost is going to be $32. So this is basically a cost estimate Just to note, this is an estimate price. This is not an actual. Actual will depend upon the consumption, but this is with the experts and intelligence of Azure Migrate, you will get this readiness plan. Once this has been done, you will also get a confidence rating that you did an assessment day 2 for status machine, and what are the confidence 1, 5, 1. I mean, this confidence is based upon the conditions that you get. Based upon the confidence, you can go ahead and start moving the machine. So once our discovery is done, our assessment is done, my machines, 4 machines are discovered. You will get all the details of the virtual machine. Now what I can do is I can do a test. I can do a replicate. I will replicate my virtual machines to Azure, because see, we have done an assessment, but the machines are still on premises. We have not replicated it. Once I'll click on replicate, I click on which all virtual machines are selected. I'll click on next, and this machine again, subscription, source ID, subnet, which subnet you want to replicate it in terms of Azure, and then it will start replicating. Now once I started replication of all the machines, it will ask me that which all disk do you want to replicate, all disk, or do you want to exclude this? Because on premises you might have multiple disks. We don't want to get all of them on Azure, so you can select this or you can exclude those disks as well. Now after the replication is completed, before migrating, we will do a test migrate. What test migrate will do is, test migrate will basically migrate your servers, but on a testing phase. It will once the what I will do is I'll start replicating. So after replication, I'll do a test migration. In test migration, my machine will be created on Azure, same as my on-premises machine, but this will not affect the on-premises environment. Test migration is absolutely recommended from migration, because you don't want to end up a phase where you're migrating and something fails and your production has been impacted. So it is recommended to do a test migration in terms of DR as well. Do a test migration. We have a test failover in Azure ASR at least every week, to make sure that your replication and everything is healthy. Test migration will create a virtual machine and everything on Azure without touching your on-premises environment, and we will not do a migration. So once a test migration is completed, see here we did a test migration, and then we will click on actual migrate. Once you click on actual migrate, see, this is a test migration. It will tell that the machines are replicating, the delta sync is there, the machine is healthy. Test migration is pending for this machine, and this was the last synchronization. This is what the report you will get from Azure Migrate servers. And after doing that, you will click on migrate, and that will fail over. So guys, I will stop this screen sharing now, and I will share my RDP session where we will do few of the things. Okay. So I hope you are able to see my screen. So now, okay, let me quickly show it to you. So this is my Azure portal. Let me quickly open a new link here. Do you see this? Yes, Abraham, Tony, Tahir. Yes, you see this. Yes, you see. Perfect. Okay, let me quickly recap again. So now, this is my Azure. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys, if you have not seen this, but this is my Azure portal. Okay. In the Azure portal, I will go to all service and I will choose Azure Migrate as a service. Once I click on Azure Migrate, if you see in the backend side, it is like an overview, and the left hand side it asks you, do you want to migrate server, do you want to migrate database, do you want to migrate VDI, web application, or data box, as we discussed. In our case, I said we want to migrate servers. Once I click on server, it will ask me to discover that how many servers are there. If you remember the snapshot I've given, a discover part. In the discover, I'll click on discover. I will click on discover, and then you will download an OVA file. You will download an OVA file, and a machine will be created on the same Hyper-V network that is on Azure. Okay. Now, once the discovery is done, it will discover and it will do the assessment. But in our case, we are doing a database migration. So once I click on database, I have already migrated, I have already assessed it. But imagine if you want to assess it again, I'll click on add. Once I click on add, a tool will be downloaded called as database migration assessment. Now I have my SQL server ready. So this is my SQL server. I'll cancel this. I'll do this everything in begin. This is my SQL server. I'll click on add. Once I click on add, it will ask me, do you want to? So this is hung here somewhere. I'm not sure why, but let me quickly pin this to task. Let me quickly. Okay, this has been uploaded. Done. Sorry, I missed that window. Okay, so now it asked me, do you want to do an assessment or do you want to do a migration? I said I want to do an assessment. It will ask me a project name. I said ABC, or I said DMA demo. It will ask me, do you want to migrate it to SQL Server or AWS RDC? You can migrate it from here to AWS. I said SQL. Where is the target? Do you want to migrate it to Azure SQL database as a platform as a service instance? Do you want to migrate on a SQL Server which is on an Azure virtual machine, or a SQL Server on a managed instance? I said I want to manage it in a managed instance. It says create. Once I click on create, I'll click on next. I click on next, it will ask me for authentication. I'll click on connect and see. Okay, now let me create a new database for now, because you have missed that part. I created a database, maybe test 3. 1 and 2 was there. I created test 3, and now I will cancel this and I will click on add again. Demo DMA. I'll click on create. Next, SQL authenticate. Okay, test 3 is there. I selected all of them. 1 and 2 are the old one. I clicked on add. Once I click on add, I'll do start assessment. Guys, I'll go back to the chat screen just to make sure. So there is no parity issue here at forever. So okay, I wanted to show you, but so let me quickly do this. So these are the types of assessment that I've done, but let me quickly do one more thing for you. I will do assessment again. Project name demo 1. I said SQL database. I click create. I click on next. Again, authentication SQL all. So it is doing an assessment again. So it is running an assessment on all the database. So see now, okay, I'll go to chat. I'll just confirm again that you guys are able to see. So guys, you are able to see my lab environment now, correct? Tahir, Atish, Ashutosh.
Yes, yes, sure.
Perfect. Thanks. Thanks. Okay. So guys, now I will go back to my server. So now see, it said what all service are not supported, what are the detail, what is an impact of the unsupported service, what all the recommendation, and what all the older database sites, what are the object detail that is impacted. I said I want to upload this thing to Azure. So I clicked upload on Azure. I said connect, upload this results to Azure. It asked me to sign in. My directory was already available. I signed in. It is loading a subscription because if you remember in Azure, I created a Azure Migrate project. So I said sponsorship, test is my project. I only have one, so that I get one option. I click on update, upload. So now this is uploading this results to Azure. But by default, I have few other results that are already see assessment is uploaded. I click on done. Now I will minimize this, and this is my Azure. If you see, I will refresh this 1442. I refresh this, and it was refreshing the tool. Give me a minute. Okay, now it will ask me that how many database instance you assessed. I'll click on here. I'll get the data SQL readiness 60%, which version, how many database you have. Then I click on cancel. How many database assessed? He said I have assessed 5. 2, okay, test 1, test 2, test 3 are created by default. Okay, and now what are the blockers for report server? And report server temp DB is the old one that I had on premises, but the main database is test 2, test 3. That there is no blocker at all, that the compatibility level is pretty good. Now see, now the two option is the two options that I'm getting is the second last one is Azure Data Readiness Instance to migrate it to the SQL Server. Now, as I told you, I can migrate it to the virtual machine. I can migrate it to the database. So I said to the server, I clicked on 3 year and it will said what all is better. So once I click on there, once my assessment is done, I'll go back to my server and now I will click on add and I'll click on migrate. Now said migrate, MIG. So it says what is the project name migration. So SQL migrated to Azure SQL managed instance. Okay. Because I don't have an instance. Azure SQL database, schema and data. I click on create. Server name SQL connect. What all you want to migrate? I said I want to migrate test 3. I'll click on next. I said SQL connect. The validation illness. No, I don't want to do that. Create a new SQL database. Create a new SQL database. So now let me quickly go ahead and I will go to my Azure portal here. I will click on SQL database. I'll click on add. I'll click a resource group, maybe demo SQL. I'll click on OK. I'll click a database name, demo server, create new server. I have to create a SQL server, demo SQL. Okay. It should be a unique name. My password, enter server login. Okay. I click on OK. I'll take 2 core. So it will ask me which machine you want to take. I said provision, change configuration. I think this is okay. Yes. Very 2 core and database size very minimum. I click on apply. And now this will create a SQL database for me. I click on create and it is submitting the deployment. Guys, this will take a couple of minutes. So now what I did, I created a blank SQL database for me for this Azure migration. Till the time this is getting created, I'll go back to the chat just to make sure if anyone is there. Okay. Guys, let me quickly set up my this thing because as I'm taking a session, people are not available on Teams. Okay, so let me go back. This deployment is in process. It might take a few minutes. But to review back, now what will happen is I created a new SQL database. Now it will take the authentication. I will give the authentication method and active directory authentication. I'll click on connect and I will be able to do a SQL migration on Azure. I think the complete migration is not required here because that take it as a homework for your side. But I showed you the complete process, correct? How to do the assessment, how to do the migration, create a blank SQL database on Azure, connect it, select it, and migrate it because this will take a while. So team, I think that is pretty much enough. I mean, so what understood, we understood what is Azure Migrate. We checked that, how to do an assessment, we saw snapshots. I mean, we saw what all we can migrate to Azure. We saw a snapshot of how to migrate a Hyper-V machine to Azure. We did an actual demo of assessment on Azure for a SQL database, and I also showed you that the steps for migrations. Do you have any questions for me? Yes, Mahmood, do you have any question? Yes, the recording will be shared, guys. After this session, once the recording is available, Junaid will send you an email where the recording will be shared with you. But I would recommend, all of you see, as I did it in my lab environment, and if you all are technical people, you might have a lab environment. Create a small SQL database. Azure, if you have an Azure subscription, good. Even if you don't have Azure subscription, Microsoft gives $200 credit for a new user, which will be valid for 1 month till the time you activate it. So do an assessment from there and try to use Azure Migrate for your Hyper-V machines, for your VMware machines, for your SQL database, and try to get it done. Yes. So now, yeah, it's on 22nd. That's a Thursday. So same time Thursday, I'll meet you there. So thank you so much, guys. Have a great day ahead.